Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. India's diplomatic outreach against terrorism led by 7 all-party delegations reaches final leg. Pakistan's copycat move to get attention backfires at the UN. Australia stands with India in its fight against terrorism, says Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence Richard Marles during bilateral talks with Rajnath Singh in New Delhi. The United States doubles its tariffs on imported steel and aluminium from 25 to 50%. New US Ambassador to China, David Perdue, calls for healthy bilateral ties in his meeting with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And newly elected South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung vows to revive democracy from near demise. Also plans to pursue talks with the North. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Lee Jae-myung on his election. Australia stands with India against terrorism. This is what Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles, said in his opening remarks during the bilateral meeting between the two defence ministers in New Delhi. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also apprised his Australian counterpart on the challenges India is facing on the Western Front.
The Australian Deputy Prime Minister, who also holds the defence portfolio, was given a guard of honour at the Manekshaw Centre in Delhi on Wednesday. He was accompanied by the Defence Minister of India, Rajnath Singh. The two defence ministers are accompanied by the top military brass and officials of both countries. In his welcome address, Rajnath Singh said that India is facing extreme challenges on the Western Front in response to the dastardly attack in Pahalgam in Kashmir.
I wish to mention that this meeting is happening at a time when India is facing extreme challenges at our western border. And we have taken steps in response to barbaric incident in Kashmir. We thank Australia for its support on this issue. We shall be talking more about this later in the meeting.
The Australian Deputy Prime Minister expressed his solidarity with India against terrorism. Richard Marles, who also holds the defence portfolio, said that India and Australia are close partners in defence and maritime security.
We want to make clear that Australia stands with India and all countries in combating terrorism. We acknowledge and we welcome the stoppage in military activity. We see this as an act of Indian leadership. But we will continue to work with India as we combat terrorism in all its forms.
The Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles, is the first senior Australian minister to visit India after the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese retained power for the second term. Marles's visit to India is part of a 4-nation visit to South and Southeast Asia from June 2 to June 5 for high-level meetings. With Nandita Dagar, Vishal Barristow's report for DD India.
Earlier, Richard Marles visited National War Memorial in New Delhi, paid tributes to the fallen heroes by laying wreath at the memorial. This visit coincides with the 5th anniversary of Australia and India's comprehensive strategic partnership, which underpins the relationship and shared vision for the Indian Ocean. Defence and security are key pillars of the comprehensive strategic partnership, with both nations committed to a peace and rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific. Indeed, India's Vishal Barrister is tracking this story for us. Vishal, strong words of support and solidarity shared by Australia's Defence Minister in India's fight against terrorism there.
Well, absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Tanvi. Indeed, the opening remark started with the prayers that Australia has to offer for all those who were killed in the Pahalgam attack, and Australian Deputy Prime Minister making it very clear that Australia is against all kinds of terrorism, and it is a clear message to Pakistan and all the countries supporting Pakistan what Australia has to say. And India and Australia are key and strategic partners in the Indo-Pacific, and they are both working very closely in the maritime security. Now, this first visit of the high-level minister of Australia after Albanese was stormed back to power in Australia is very, very important. And we also heard the Defence Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, saying that we would discuss the Western Front and also the Pahalgam attack at length during this bilateral meeting. So indeed, it's a very important meeting of the Australian Deputy Prime Minister, who also holds the defence portfolio.
Okay, also tell us what progress has been made on the joint declaration on defence and maritime security between both the countries.
Well, both countries are expected to sign a joint declaration, and we would soon get to hear after the meeting gets over. Let me tell you that this is a very important bilateral that would India and Australia would be signing later this year. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to visit Australia and meet Albanese in Australia. So this is going to be a very, very important document, because it would ensure the cooperation between the two countries, not only in the Indian Ocean, but also in the Indo-Pacific. And we all know who is the culprit there, and how China has been spreading its net and claim across the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, thank you very much, Vishal Barrister, for tracking this story for us. Now, India's outreach against terrorism is in its final leg now. The multi-party delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Dr. Shashi Tharoor arrived in Washington, D.C. India's all-party delegation's visit to the US is part of India's larger global outreach program following the Pahalgam terror attack, aimed at conveying India's zero-tolerance policy on terrorism. Over the next 2 days, the delegation will be meeting members of the US Congress and administration, think tanks, media and policymakers to brief them on Operation Sindoor and India's strong stand against terrorism. The delegation had earlier visited Brazil, Panama, Guyana and Colombia, and are now traveling to the United States to continue their diplomatic outreach. The multi-party delegations carrying the message of India's principled and resolute stand against terrorism have started returning home after concluding their successful visit to their respective countries. The delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Sanjay Kumar Jha arrived in Delhi on Tuesday after concluding a multi-nation visit aimed at bolstering international support against cross-border terrorism. The delegation visited Singapore, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia and Indonesia as part of a global outreach initiative. During the visit, the delegation engaged with foreign leaders, senior officials, influential think tanks, media and the Indian diaspora as part of their outreach. Another all-party delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Ravi Shankar Prasad arrived in Brussels after concluding their visit to the United Kingdom. India's ambassador to Belgium, Saurabh Kumar, received them at the airport in Brussels on Tuesday. During the 2-day visit, the delegation is scheduled to hold several meetings aimed at consolidating global consensus against cross-border terrorism. After concluding their 4-nation diplomatic visit, the Indian parliamentary delegation led by Member of Parliament Dr. Shrikant Shinde arrived in New Delhi. As part of the visit, the delegation travelled to the UAE, Liberia, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Sierra Leone, engaging in high-level meetings to strengthen bilateral relations and promote India's global outreach. In a notable diplomatic milestone, Shrikant Shinde became the only Indian Member of Parliament to address the national parliaments of both Liberia and Sierra Leone. Another all-party delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Supriya Sule also concluded their multi-nation visit on Tuesday. On the second day of their visit to Egypt, the delegation called on Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, Dr. Badr Abdelati. Both sides acknowledged the growing momentum in the India-Egypt strategic partnership and reaffirmed their unified stance against terrorism. Foreign Minister Abdelati reiterated Egypt's full solidarity with India and welcomed deeper bilateral collaboration on counter-terrorism. The delegation later paid solemn tribute at the Heliopolis War Memorial in Cairo to the numerous Indian soldiers who laid down their lives during the First and Second World Wars, underscoring the enduring historical bonds and shared sacrifices between India and Egypt. The delegation also engaged with the leaders, intellectuals and opinion makers in Egypt in an interactive session chaired by former Foreign Minister of Egypt, Nabil Fahmy. The delegation clearly articulated India's strong resolve to combat terrorism and welcomed Egypt's condemnation of terrorism in the strongest terms. Union, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal suggested setting up working groups between businesses of India and France that could enable focused attention on emerging sectors and those with high potential to deepen engagement between the two sides. The minister participated in the WTO Trade Ministers gathering on the margins of OECD Ministerial Council meeting in Paris. The leaders had a discussion on several issues concerning the World Trade Organization and multilateral trade. Addressing businesses of both the sides in Paris during his visit, the Union Minister highlighted the India opportunity driven by a skilled and talented workforce and the government's commitment to ease doing business and how it offers promising avenues for French companies. Encouraged companies from both sides to collaborate by building on shared interests and leveraging each other's competencies, the minister said. Union Minister Piyush Goyal further interacted with Israel's Minister of Economy and Industry, Nir Barkat, and had discussions focused on diversifying trade basket, fostering innovation and strengthening cooperation in high-tech and emerging sectors, paving the way for the next phase of India-Israel partnership. From France, Union Minister Piyush Goyal will depart for Italy, the second leg of his Europe visit, where further engagements with industry leaders and government officials are scheduled. Now, let's go back to the story on India's diplomatic outreach against terrorism. DD India's Jessica Taneja is joining us with more perspective here. Jessica, on a day when the Indian all-party delegation led by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor arrived in Washington, D.C. as part of the global outreach on Operation Sindoor, Pakistan's delegation led by Bilawal Bhutto was in New York to try to push its case. How challenging will it be for the Indian delegation in the U.S. to convince the congressmen about India's strong anti-terror policy?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be challenging at all, because as far as the American administration goes, there is an understanding of the fact that this is a bilateral issue which will be resolved between India and Pakistan. The United States mediation or any kind of assistance would not come in handy at this point. And India has made it very clear that the kind of hyphenation that the American administration has been putting forth is also not acceptable to an extent. And also the kind of, shuttle diplomacy that we've seen in the recent past hasn't gone down well, neither with the Indian public nor with the administration, to an effect where it has been highlighted. But with this visit to the U.S. meeting with the U.S. Congress officials, as well as think tanks and other journalists, to make them understand about India's position on terrorism and how it has time and again been putting forth its dossiers after dossiers, reminding the world that 50 UN-designated terrorists were found in Pakistan. It's been more than 20, 30 years since we've been, telling the world that it is a safe haven for not just individual terrorists, but also organizations that tend to trouble not just its neighbors, but also Pakistan. At the end of the day, one may not forget the Peshawar school attacks and many more that have come in the recent past as well, if you've seen right up to the elections. So it's a country that is familiar with terrorism but continues to harbor it. And India's point is simple. This is what it's trying to tell the world. There has to be more action than just putting Pakistan in the FATF grey list and giving them, IMF loans time and time again.
A country that doesn't deserve to be in this position. The people who had chosen better, certainly the military dispensation and the political dispensation, are not being able to steer the country in the right direction.
Okay, this is not the first time statements to foreign countries telling them how India has been a victim of terrorism. Even during 26/11 attacks, credible evidence was shared regarding Pakistan's involvement. Sadly, nothing has changed so far.
But this also brings forth to light the Indian, system and the Indian, side's frustration over providing dossier after dossier to the world, telling that this country has been harboring 50 UN designated terrorists for the last 20-30 years, despite so many calls being made to many countries in their capitals. Right now, as we speak, it's understood that the Indian delegation, 7 delegations had visited 33 capitals across the world. This was a similar exercise we saw in the past as well, just that this time it was taken up with much bigger force, and the outreach was much wider, because India has grown economically and certainly is more important in the geopolitical landscape as well. And its point has to be made in a sense where countries and their heads or their deputies are made to understand the kind of problems India has been dealing with, especially when it comes to cross-border terrorism. And this is in fact, been the point of the Indian side for many years, as I pointed out, that till the time the world does not condemn or outrightly call Pakistan or its political dispensation, which is currently controlled by the military, because there is no civilian government. India's message is also clear that they have to be held accountable. The Pakistani side needs to be able to take, take action against those that are still operating out of their soil and continuing to create menace with terrorist activities, not just in India, but across the world.
Okay.
And if you'd recall, Tanvi, right now they're in America, so it's interesting to point out the context that Osama bin Laden in 2012 was also found in Abbottabad, just a few kilometers away from the Pakistan military academy. So, and the Pakistani dispensations, distancing itself from not knowing whether Osama was hiding there, certainly, put them in a spot where they had no answers. As an example that has been proven that Pakistan state knows and continues to harbor terrorism on its soil.
Okay, we leave it here. Thank you very much, Jessica, for your analysis on the subject. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says Tehran will not bow to US pressure to dismantle their nuclear program. Hong Kong tightens security for the 36th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, vowed to reach out to nuclear-armed North and heal wounds as he took office on Wednesday after winning the snap elections. Lee scored a thumping victory over conservative Kim Moon-soo in snap elections, with his term beginning immediately after the vote tally was certified early on Wednesday. Lee spoke to South Korea's top military commander and formally assumed operational control of the country's armed forces on Wednesday, urging them to maintain readiness in case of Pyongyang's provocations. However, the South Korean president in his first address vowed to pursue dialogue with Pyongyang and improve ties with Seoul's nuclear-armed neighbor.
아무리 비싼 평화도 전쟁보다는 낫습니다. 싸워서 이기는 것보다 싸우지 않고 이기는 것이 더 낫고, 싸울 필요 없는 평화가 가장 확실한 안보입니다. 북한 GDP의 2배에 달하는 국방비, 세계 5위의 군사력, 여기에 한미 군사 동맹에 기반한 강력한 억지력으로 북핵과 북한의 군사 도발에 대응하되 북한과의 소통 창구를 열고 대화 협력을 통해 한반도 평화를 구축해 나가겠습니다.
Lee Jae-myung also announced the appointment of a new Prime Minister and key cabinet members. He appointed Kim Min-seok, a four-term Democratic Party lawmaker, as the Prime Minister and selected Lee Jong-seok, a former Unification Minister, to lead the National Intelligence Service, and Kang Hoon-sik as his Chief of Staff. He stated that these appointments align with his goals of fostering economic growth and promoting national unity. Lee Jae-myung's journey is one of resilience and ambition. From humble beginnings to becoming South Korea's president, his path was marked by struggle, determination, and also controversy. Let's take a closer look at his rise.
Born in 1964, Lee Jae-myung worked in a factory before earning a law degree on scholarship. His struggles fueled his career as a human rights lawyer. Lee stepped into public service as the mayor of Seongnam, serving for 8 years. He made bold reforms, including shutting down South Korea's largest dog meat market. Later, he took on a big role as the governor of Gyeonggi province. His presidential ambitions began in 2022, but he narrowly missed to Yoon Suk-yeol. In 2024, while campaigning, he survived a shocking stabbing attack. In 2025, his resilience paid off, winning the presidential election by a landslide victory. Despite his political rise, Lee Jae-myung faces legal battles, including accusations of corruption and election law violations. In May, the Supreme Court ordered a retrial, but with his recent election victory, proceedings have been delayed due to presidential immunity. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Lee Jae-myung on his election as South Korea's president. In a message on X, Prime Minister Modi expressed optimism about collaborating with Lee to bolster the India-Republic of Korea Special Strategic Partnership. As peace remains elusive in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, tensions escalate on multiple fronts. Kremlin has downplayed hopes of a quick resolution while peace talks in Istanbul ended in a deadlock. Meanwhile, senior Ukrainian officials are in Washington seeking renewed US support as Russia deepens ties with North Korea. DD India's Harshita Oberoi reports.
The Kremlin has declared that expectations for a swift resolution in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine are unrealistic. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov emphasized on the complexity of the situation, stating that immediate solutions are unlikely. This statement follows the recent peace talks in Istanbul, which concluded without significant progress. Concurrently, senior Ukrainian officials, including Andriy Yermak and Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko, have arrived in Washington. Their mission is to secure continued US support against Russia. The Ukrainian delegation accuses Moscow of stalling peace negotiations and evading sanctions, asserting that Russia lacks genuine intent to cease hostilities. The peace talks in Istanbul have highlighted the deep divisions between the two nations. Russia's demands include Ukraine ceding additional territories and accepting military limitations, conditions that Kiev deems unacceptable. The Kremlin has also dismissed the possibility of a trilateral summit involving US, Russian, and Ukrainian leaders. In a further show of shifting alliances, Russia's top security official, Sergei Shoigu, arrived in Pyongyang on Wednesday for talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The two countries have strengthened ties in recent years, with Pyongyang reportedly supplying arms and troops to support Moscow's campaign in Ukraine. Harshita Obroy's report for DD India.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said on Tuesday that Tehran would not bow to pressure by the United States to dismantle their nuclear program. The US proposal for a new nuclear deal was presented to Iran on Saturday by Omani Foreign Minister Sayyid Badr al-Busaidi, who was on a short visit to Tehran and has been mediating talks between Tehran and Washington. After 5 rounds of discussions between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, several obstacles still remain. Iran is poised to reject a US proposal to end a decades-old nuclear dispute. Among them are Iran's rejection of a US demand that it commits to scrapping uranium enrichment and its refusal to ship abroad its entire existing stockpile of highly enriched uranium, possible raw material for nuclear bombs. Tehran says it wants to master nuclear technology for peaceful purposes and has long denied accusations by Western powers that it is seeking to develop nuclear weapons.
ما از حق و حقوق علمی و کارشناسی و هسته خودمون به هیچ وجه کوتاه نخواهیم آمد. خواب یه چنین چیزی رو ببینن که اینا تصور کنن با تهدید و یا با تطمیع خواهند توانست مسلمان ها رو و کشورهای اسلامی رو از حقوق مسلمی که آگاهی علم خلاقیت بگن شما نمیتونید در این منطقه علمی بیایید وارد بشید. هیچ وجدان بیداری، هیچ انسان آزاده‌ای قتل و غارت و کشتاری رو که اسرائیلیا و با پشتیبانی آمریکا و اروپا داره تو منطقه انجام میده اگر ببینه نمیپذیره.
And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. Award-winning Nigerian director Alicia Mackey is at the forefront of a new wave of filmmakers revitalizing Nigerian cinema. Mackey is gaining recognition for her courageous approach to subjects considered taboo in her conservative society, including struggles with infertility and discussions around women's bodies. A severe drought is significantly impacting China's vital wheat belt, particularly in the northwestern Shanxi province and central Henan, where over a quarter of the nation's wheat is grown. Official figures on wheat yields are still pending, but initial reports from affected areas suggest significant losses. This damage could impact global wheat imports. Farmers are facing financial hardship, with some communities even struggling for drinking water due to the severe drought. Security was heightened around Victoria Park on Wednesday as Hong Kong marked a subdued 36th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown. Police patrolled the Causeway Bay district near the park, where the traditional candlelight vigil has been effectively banned since Beijing imposed a national security law in 2020. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Pakistan's ex-Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto's remark on Muslims in India backfires at the UN press conference. In a widening rift, Elon Musk slams Trump's signature budget bill, calls it a disgusting abomination. And as pilgrims gather for Hajj 2025, concerns loom over the intense summer heat and safety precautions.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick reminder of the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Australia stands with India in its fight against terrorism, says Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence Richard Marles during bilateral talks with Rajnath Singh in New Delhi. The United States doubles its tariffs on imported steel and aluminium from 25 to 50%. New US Ambassador to China, David Perdue, calls for healthy bilateral ties in his meeting with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Newly elected South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung vows to revive democracy from near demise, also plans to pursue talks with the North. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Lee Jae-myung on his election. On a day when the Indian All-Party delegation led by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor arrived in Washington DC as part of the global outreach on Operation Sindoor, Pakistan's delegation led by Bilawal Bhutto was in New York to try to push its case in what appears to be a copycat move. While speaking at a press conference at the UN headquarters, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari made a rash attempt to push an anti-India narrative as he claimed that Muslims were being demonized in the country. However, his anti-India propaganda was effectively countered by a foreign journalist who pointed out that he had personally witnessed India's Operation Sindoor briefing being headed by an Indian Muslim officer, Colonel Sophia Qureshi, along with Wing Commander Vyomika Singh and Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri.
Let me start with a statement you made today, saying that the recent terrorist attack in Kashmir is being used as a political tool to demonize Muslims in India. Sir, I have watched the briefings on both sides, and as far as I recall, there were Muslim Indian military officers who were conducting the briefing on the Indian side.
Well, as far as the operation is concerned, you're absolutely right.
Also in shocking news, Pakistan is set to chair the United Nations Security Council's 1988 Taliban Sanctions Committee this year and will also serve as a vice chair of the Council's influential Counter-Terrorism Committee. The developments come as Pakistan begins its two-year term as a non-permanent member of the 15-Nation Council for 2025-26. The committee is responsible for enforcing sanctions, including asset freezes, travel bans and arms embargoes against individuals and entities associated with the Taliban that pose a threat to peace and security in Afghanistan. Guyana and Russia will serve as vice chairs of the committee. Pakistan is currently serving as a non-permanent member of the Security Council for the 2025-26 term. Previously, India chaired the Counter-Terrorism Committee in 2022 during its own term as a non-permanent member and has regularly voiced concerns about Pakistan's record, noting that the country harbors a significant number of UN-designated terrorists. India has also highlighted the case of Osama bin Laden, who was found and killed in Pakistan's Abbottabad in 2011. And we are now joined by former Indian senior diplomat Veena Sikri on the show. Welcome, ma'am. Bilawal Bhutto has said at the UN headquarters in New York that Pakistan would like to cooperate with India to combat terrorism. What do you make of this statement, given that it comes from a country that has long been a known sponsor of terrorism?
Yeah, well, Pakistan is a country that believes that the bigger the lie you tell, the more it is going to be believed. So I think that them promising in the UN that they're going to cooperate with India on counterterrorism when they are the ones inflicting terrorism on India. And India has seen as recently as April 22nd in Pahalgam, the very brutal and absolutely inhuman way in which they have killed 26 innocent tourists over there, one of whom was from Nepal. And absolutely you would know that there is no way in which Pakistan, who is a state sponsor of terrorism, can in any way, play any role in the UN on countering terrorism. This is a classic example of a wolf trying to wear sheep's clothing and pretending to the world that they are very innocent and they are supposed to get sympathy from the rest of the world. But we know, as you have yourself shown in your program, this foreign journalist who called out Bilawal Bhutto and said, I don't know what you are saying about India, because we know that in India they have seen at first hand that Indian army is a multi-faith army. People of all religions, individuals of all religions are a part of it, and they achieve high positions. and they have also been involved in briefing the press and the world community about the situation in India, not only after Pahalgam attack on innocent tourists, but also after May 7th and after May 10th, when India countered those attacks. On May 7th, with the attack on the terrorist headquarters, which are in Pakistan, the headquarters of the, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Murid Ke, Bawalpur, and also other headquarters. And we know that at least 100 terrorists died in this effort and in the attack made by India. And we also know that immediately how the Pakistan lie is exposed, because it was senior Pakistan army officers who attended the funeral of these slain terrorists. And in addition to that, they assured compensation to Asad Mazur and others, the leading terrorists who are still there, that we will compensate you 1 crore for every terrorist who died. So you can imagine, and where is this money going to come from? I'm sure from the IMF tranche, which they have recently been sanctioned. So, this is a classic example of Bilawal Bhutto thinking and Pakistan regime thinking that they can do something in their own country and something abroad, and nobody in the world can be clever enough to put 2 and 2 together. But I can tell them that everybody, including the foreign journalists that you are showing on your screen, they have already put 2 and 2 together, and they recognize Pakistan as the state sponsor of terrorism. In fact, this visit by Bilawal Bhutto to UN and Washington DC is very much not only a copycat deed after what India has done, but secondly, they're trying to be in Washington on the same day as the Shashi Tharoor-led delegation is going to be in Washington DC. So we'll see what happens when they reach there. But I think that already from the discussions in New York, they have met, Bilawal Bhutto's team has met Secretary General, the President of the Security Council, and other people. I don't think that has cut much ice, because everybody knows the facts India has already presented. These details India has already given. The world has already been convinced about India's very sincere stand to take the world along with it on countering terrorism and to call out all state sponsors of terrorism.
Yes. Now, does Pakistan sending a copycat delegation to the UN headquarters in New York also suggest that India's all-party delegations visiting various countries to explain India's position on terrorism have been largely successful in achieving their goal?
Absolutely. I think this is absolutely a reflection of that because India delegations have received so much success and positive response, that Pakistan thinks they should also try and do something similar. But I think that this is, I must again say that the government of India has done the very right thing by sending these delegations, multi-party delegations, multi-faith delegations, reflecting the diversity of India, reflecting the secularism of India, sending them abroad. And the leaders of these delegations, the people from different faiths, we've seen Mr. Owaisi speaking in the Gulf countries, we've seen Salman Khurshid speaking in the areas where he visited, we've seen all the people speaking with absolute sincerity, with absolute truth on the real situation. And the world has definitely been convinced. And the government has taken this step in a very good and positive spirit to counter terrorism. We have tried so far to have a UN global convention against terrorism, but it has not got anywhere because even the world definition on terrorism has not been agreed upon. But now we are taking it globally. We are taking it across the world. We're convincing all governments. And in fact, Pakistan has been spreading so much false propaganda all these years that now by this initiative, we will really call out Pakistan in the lies they have been spreading and will present the truth before the world. We have already seen a tremendously positive response. And the world is ready to counter terrorism because each country suffers in its own way from terrorism. And they know that all these threads of global terrorism go back to Pakistan in some way or the other. And of course, in the case of Pahalgam, it was very direct. In other cases also, like people spoke about Osama bin Laden, you spoke about other terrorist attacks, where the thread of investigation leads to Pakistan always. And that is why this effort has been so successful and so positive.
Surprisingly, Pakistan is to chair the Taliban Sanctions Committee of the UN Security Council for 2025, and it will also be the vice chair of the Counter-Terrorism Committee of the 15-nation UN body. Would you call this an absolutely bizarre selection of a known sponsor of terrorism?
Well, Pakistan again is being a copycat because India was heading some of these committees when we were non-permanent member of the Security Council a couple of years ago. And so Pakistan wants to show that they can also head this committee and they can be a spokesman of the world on counterterrorism. I think this is completely fake, completely false. as I said again, a wolf in sheep's clothing, trying to convince the world that they are innocent, but the world already knows the truth. And I think India has enough friends in the Security Council, even as the vice chairman of the same committee that Pakistan is chairing, and we will be able to meet and match any wrong, any falsehood, any wrong misrepresentation, any wrong representation of the facts that Pakistan may try to do. We will be able to correct it amply. So I think Pakistan may think that they have achieved something by getting these chairmanships in a copycat attempt of India, but soon they will realize that they really haven't got anything, because they will be thwarted in their attempts over there as well.
Thank you very much, Veena Sikriji, for joining us on DD India News. All right. Paraguay's President Santiago Peña Palacios attended the event at IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Mumbai. During the event, the president highlighted Paraguay's benefits, including ample clean energy, strategic location, economic stability, and a business-friendly environment. Over 100 Indian startup CEOs from key sectors like logistics, transportation, energy, and pharmaceuticals are keen to explore Paraguay as a regional hub. President of Paraguay also met with Maharashtra's Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, sharing it on the social media platform X, formerly Twitter. Maharashtra Chief Minister wrote, "Our enriching dialogue explored promising avenues for collaboration between the state of Maharashtra and Paraguay." On to weather news now. After a devastating landslide in North Sikkim, the Indian Army is conducting tireless search and rescue missions under extreme weather and dangerous terrain. Lachain village, completely isolated after the landslide, damaged the road, but the Indian Army reached it on foot and rescued 113 stranded tourists. On June 3rd, 30 individuals, including foreign nationals, were airlifted to safety. The search continues for 6 missing persons, with expert teams and equipment tackling unstable ground and high altitude challenges. The India Meteorological Department issued an orange alert for 11 states, including Assam, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, highlighting the possibility of light to moderate rainfall across these regions, accompanied by thunderstorms. The weather forecast for Delhi indicates the possibility of mostly cloudy skies, mild rain, thunderstorms and strong winds. The highest temperature is expected to be between 35 and 37 degrees Celsius, providing some relief from the persistent summer highs. The IMD has issued a yellow alert urging residents to stay weather aware. The Met Department stated the region would continue to witness rainfall activity for the next 5 to 7 days in northeastern Indian states of Assam, Sikkim, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya and Tripura. Union Minister for Development of Northeastern Region and Minister of Communications, Jyotiraditya Scindia, expressed deep concern over floods and landslides in the northeast due to heavy rainfall. He spoke with the Chief Ministers of Assam and Sikkim and the Governor of Manipur, assuring them full central support. Scindia reaffirmed the centre's commitment to relief efforts via a post on X, promising coordinated action to aid the affected states. And now let's connect with our correspondents in the northeast. Subina Roy joins us from Dibrugarh, Assam, and Manas Pratim Sharma is with us from Gangtok. Manas, update us on the rescue operation being carried out of these passengers who were stranded at the Mangan district.
Yeah, good afternoon. Today, the air rescue mission has been suspended due to bad weather. 2 Indian Air Force helicopter put in standby mode at Pakyong Airport, but due to the inclement weather, foggy weather, and added with rains, that could not operate. So, for the time being, for today's, it has been suspended. Now, coming to the other option, that the district administration, along with the other central agencies, they are exploring 2 options. One is from Jama. This is the place called Jama, by road connectivity, and another option is Chetham. So all the district administration and the other agencies are exploring both the option. If those around 110 people being stranded at Lachan in Mongan district, if they could be, taken to the another place, Latsung, by using both these land routes. But there is certain issues. One is that multiple landslides occur in and around that area, and the two bridges that has been damaged due to rains and landslides, though they are trying to restore the network and road connectivity. If that happens, so they could be evacuated from roads, or else they will go to evacuate them by with the help of Indian Air Force tomorrow, depending upon the weather. Yeah, back to you.
Okay. Subina, persistent heavy rainfall continues in several regions of Assam. Tell us about the rescue operations update.
Right, Tanvi, due to this continuous downpour, there has been a lot of devastation all across the state, starting from landslides to flash floods to artificial flooding to erosion-prone area. And talking about the rescue operations, the SDRF, DDRF, inland water authorities, and the local administration are working round the clock on a war footing basis to rescue people. There have been incidents where people have gone missing and the rescue operations have been on for 24/7. And yesterday, as per the latest SDMA report, more than 800 people have been rescued. And even animals have been rescued, which amounts to around 400 animals in 72 boats that were deployed across the states. Now, also, if we talk about the infrastructure damage, right now I am in Mohana Ghat area, and this is an erosion-prone area, and you can see the floodplain was up to that point, that concrete piles which you can see there, but now the water has just gulped up these floodplains. And on Sunday, when the water level had gone beyond danger level in Dibrugarh, it had entered these villages nearby on these banks. As you can see, the water has dried up right now, but these villages get inundated every year, and the sweeping away thousands of villages, many villages across this stretch. And I would like to show you the stretch out there. The floodplains were still there. The concrete piles that you can see, but now it's just water, what you can see, and nothing else. And the Brahmaputra looks like a sea. You can't see the other side of the river. That's how erosion affects on this part of the area. Like from Dibrugarh is nearby Arunachal, where 65% of the rainfall enters Assam. And then in Tinsukia and Dibrugarh, it is an erosion-prone area since the Siang River, when it enters Assam, it becomes the Brahmaputra. And then it starts hitting the south bank. And this is the south bank of Brahmaputra. And that's why it's an erosion-prone area. However, in spite of all these difficulties, the Assam government and the central government stands steadfast on carrying out fast rescue operations. Yesterday, we were in Laikha Dodia near the Gujan Ghat, where animal fodder is being provided, not just humans who are being taken care, but also properly animal fodder, veterinary departments.
Sabina.
Each and every department is working on a war footing.
Yes, testing times there for the entire Northeast. Thank you very much, Manas Pratim Sharma and Sabina Roy, for giving us those updates. On to some business news now. US tariffs on steel and aluminium have doubled to 50% after President Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday. For more on what that means for the EU and ongoing trade negotiations between Brussels and Washington, let's connect with DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu from Berlin. Chiponda, what do you have for us?
Thanks for having me. Well, the EU said that higher tariffs on steel and aluminum undermine the ongoing efforts to reach a trade agreement and that the bloc is prepared to impose counter tariffs. Now, that response was, of course, on Saturday, a day after President Trump announced that he would be doubling U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. So his follow-through with that threat this week does raise the prospect of an escalating trade dispute between the world's two biggest trading partners. Now, as a reminder, less than 2 weeks ago, Trump threatened to increase tariffs on EU imports to the United States to 50% in June before backing down after a call with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Now, he agreed to extend the deadline for the 50% tariffs to July 9th. So we do have to wait and see whether the EU will respond to the latest tariff hike. And of course, perhaps we'll hear more during the visit of German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to Washington. He will meet with Trump on Thursday.
Thank you very much, Chiponda, for those updates. President Donald Trump on Wednesday described Chinese President Xi Jinping as very tough and extremely hard to make a deal with. His comments come just days after he accused Beijing of violating a trade agreement, further highlighting the ongoing tensions in the two countries. Trump's remarks were made on Truth Social, where he expressed continued affection for President Xi, but stressed the difficulty in negotiating with China. Amid the trade wars going on between the United States and China, the leaders of the two countries are meeting to build healthy and stable bilateral relationship. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Tuesday welcomed the new U.S. ambassador to China, David Perdue. The Chinese Foreign Minister has emphasized the critical juncture of China-U.S. ties, highlighting that equality, respect, dialogue and cooperation are crucial for progress. In more problems for Trump, billionaire Elon Musk has hit out at Trump's signature tax and spending bill, calling it a disgusting abomination that will increase the federal deficit. The comments mark his first public disagreement with Trump since leaving government, after having previously called the plan disappointing. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson also dismissed Musk's complaints, telling reporters that, I quote, "My friend Elon is terribly wrong." Several fiscally conservative Republicans in the U.S. Senate supported views expressed by Musk in social media posts. Republican deficit hawks have expressed concerns about the cost of the bill, which would extend the 2017 tax cuts. The House of Representatives passed it by one vote last month, after the Congressional Budget Office said that the measure would add $3.8 trillion to the federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt. On to some sporting action now. Royal Challengers Bengaluru secured their maiden Indian Premier League title cup on Tuesday night, beating Punjab Kings by 6 runs in the final in Ahmedabad. From being a 3-time runners-up to claiming the IPL trophy, RCB finally scaled the peak. Bengaluru seemed to have dropped the ball by making 190 for 9, but it made more than it was needed for it, with an excellent bowling performance as they defended 189 runs. Shepherd may have picked up the big wicket of Shreyas, but it was Krunal Pandya who set it up. Coming into the attack in the 7th over, the left-arm spinner tied the batters in knots by keeping an exceptional length. The 34-year-old dismissed Josh Inglis and Prab Simran Singh. Punjab Kings would have felt it did well to restrict Bengaluru for such a total. The spiritual journey of a lifetime, Hajj 2025, has approached, with millions of Muslim pilgrims preparing to converge in the holy cities of Saudi Arabia. But even as the faithfuls gear up for the sacred rituals, concerns loom over the intense summer heat and safety precautions. This year, Saudi authorities have rolled out a comprehensive 15-point preparedness plan as the day of Arafat falls on June 5th, followed by Eid al-Adha on June 6th. A report.
The annual Islamic pilgrimage of Hajj 2025 begins on June 4th. drawing millions of Muslims from across the globe to the holy sites of Mecca and Medina. However, rising temperatures have brought growing concern. Last year's pilgrimage saw temperatures touch 51.8 degrees Celsius, resulting in over 13,000 fatalities. This year too, the Saudi National Center for Meteorology has warned of extremely hot conditions with daytime highs expected between 40 to 47 degrees Celsius. To ensure safety and smooth operations, the Saudi government has unveiled a massive 15-point action plan, a testament to its commitment under Vision 2030. The No Hajj Without Permit campaign remains central to crowd control and pilgrim safety. Over 25,000 mosques have been prepared with 2.5 million Qurans and over 1.3 million digital iCards issued. In a show of community effort, more than 25,000 volunteers will serve during Hajj 2025. Water infrastructure has been scaled up. Saudi Arabia is also leveraging AI and digital infrastructure for crowd management. Over 5,000 towers, 9,000 plus 5G and 4G stations, and 10,000 plus Wi-Fi hotspots are operational across the region. The Hajj Media Forum has returned to its second edition, hosting over 5,000 media professionals across 6,000 square meters, providing real-time updates and international coverage. More than 1.4 million Nusuk cards, integrated pilgrim passes, have been issued, with over 100 services now available via the app. Saudi Arabia has also prioritized emergency infrastructure, a new hospital in Mina, along with 3 field hospitals, 900 ambulances, 71 emergency points, and 11 medical aircrafts are ready for deployment. Saudi authorities are urging pilgrims to stay hydrated, avoid prolonged sun exposure, and immediately seek medical help if needed. As faith and fervor take center stage in the world's largest annual religious gathering, Hajj 2025 also showcases how tradition is meeting technology, with meticulous planning, digital integration, and humanitarian foresight, all aimed at ensuring a safer, smoother pilgrimage. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.